Welcome back to the channel. Rarest coins. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most interesting and valuable coins in American history, the 1968 Washington quarter dollar. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a 1968 quarter so special? After all, it's not like it's from the early 20th century or the beginning of the U.S. Mint. But trust me, this coin is worth a lot more than just 25 cents, with some examples even selling for up to $1.5 million. That's right, you heard me correctly. A coin from 1968 could be worth a small fortune. Stick around as we dive deep into the history of the Washington quarter, what makes the 1968 version stand out, and why it could be worth a massive amount of money. The history of the Washington quarter. Before we get into the details of the 1968 quarter, let's take a moment to discuss the Washington quarter itself. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the coin features a portrait of George Washington on the obverse, and a bald eagle on the reverse. This design became a hallmark of American coinage and has been used, with slight modifications, for nearly a century. The Washington quarter initially served as a symbol of patriotism and was a way to honor the first president of the United States. Throughout the years, the design has remained relatively consistent, though there have been a few changes, especially during the state quarter program in the late 1990s. However, the 1968 Washington quarter stands out for several reasons that make it highly collectible today. The 1968 Washington quarter, key features and minting. In 1968, the U.S. Mint produced Washington quarters in large numbers. The quarter was still part of the standard circulation coins, which means that millions of them were struck and released into circulation. The mint mark on the 1968 quarter tells us where the coin was produced. The 1968 coin could be found with a D-mint mark for coins struck in Denver or with no mint mark at all, indicating coins struck in Philadelphia. But here's the thing. Although the 1968 Washington quarter was produced in large numbers, it is the coins that are in exceptional condition or have rare minting errors that can fetch astronomical prices. These are the ones that collectors are particularly interested in. Why is the 1968 Washington quarter worth so much money? Now, let's get to the most exciting part. Why is the 1968 Washington quarter worth so much money? The truth is, most 1968 quarters are worth only face value, around 25 cents. However, there are a few exceptional examples that have become highly valuable over the years due to rarity, condition, and certain mint errors. When it comes to rare coins, there are a few factors that contribute to their increased value: rarity and demand. While the 1968 Washington quarter wasn't necessarily rare in terms of production, certain versions of this coin have become rare over time due to their condition or unique characteristics. As collectors seek out high-quality, rare coins, the demand for a specific type of coin can drive up its price significantly. Mint errors. The most significant factor that can make a 1968 Washington quarter worth a large amount of money is a minting error. A mint error occurs when the coin is struck incorrectly during the production process. These errors can include things like double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, or other unusual features that make the coin different from the standard version. Mint errors are extremely rare, and when they happen, they can greatly increase the value of the coin. Some specific errors found in 1968 Washington quarters have made those coins incredibly valuable. For instance, a 1968 quarter with a double die or an off-center strike could potentially sell for thousands, if not millions, of dollars. High-grade condition. Another factor that plays a significant role in the value of any coin, including the 1968 Washington quarter, is its condition. A coin that has been well preserved and remains in nearly mint condition is much more valuable than a heavily circulated one. Coins in mint condition are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher grades indicating a coin's quality. If your 1968 Washington quarter has been carefully kept in mint condition, it could fetch a high price at auction, especially if it's graded MS67 or higher by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. the $1.5 million 1968 Washington quarter. Now, let's get to the jaw-dropping part, the 1968 Washington quarter that sold for a massive $1.5 million. How did this coin, which seems like a fairly ordinary quarter, fetch such a high price? This record-breaking sale happened due to a combination of factors: an incredibly rare mint error, high demand from collectors, and the perfect condition of the coin. The coin that sold for $1.5 million had an extremely rare minting error, a double die, where the design was struck twice, resulting in a doubled image. This flaw, combined with the coin's near-perfect condition, made it a collector's dream. When it hit the auction block, collectors were eager to get their hands on this unique piece of American history, and the price skyrocketed to an astonishing $1.5 million. This is an extreme example, but it highlights how valuable a 1968 Washington quarter can be if it has the right combination of rarity and exceptional condition. How to identify a valuable 1968 Washington quarter. Now that you know how valuable a 1968 Washington quarter can be, you might be wondering how to tell if you have one of these rare coins in your collection. Here are a few tips to help you identify a potentially valuable 1968 quarter. Look for mint errors. Start by carefully examining your 1968 Washington quarter. Look for any signs of mint errors, such as double strikes, die cracks, off-center strikes, or other unusual features. These errors can add significant value to your coin, especially if they are rare or particularly noticeable. Check the coin's condition. Condition is everything when it comes to coins. If your 1968 quarter looks like it's been circulated heavily, it's not likely to be worth much more than face value. However, if the coin is in great shape and shows little to no signs of wear, it could be worth a lot more. Coins graded MS67 or higher are often worth significantly more than their face value. Get your coin professionally graded. The best way to determine the true value of your 1968 Washington quarter is to have it professionally graded by a reputable grading service like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC. These organizations can assess the condition of the coin, check for any mint errors, and assign a grade that will help you understand its value. Research auction prices. If you think your coin might be valuable, it's a good idea to check auction results for similar coins. Some auction houses specialize in rare coins, and they may have sold other 1968 Washington quarters with minting errors or in exceptional condition. This will give you an idea of what your coin could sell for. Conclusion: is your 1968 Washington quarter worth $1.5 million? While most 1968 Washington quarters are worth just 25 cents, there's always the chance that you could have one of the rare era coins that has the potential to be worth a small fortune. If you happen to find a 1968 quarter in pristine condition or with a unique minting error, you could be sitting on a valuable piece of history. In rare cases, a 1968 Washington quarter could even be worth up to $1.5 million. Just like the highest-selling example. So, if you have a 1968 Washington quarter, it might be time to take a closer look. You could be holding onto a coin that's worth far more than face value. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1968 Washington quarter and want to learn more about rare coins and their value, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time with more fascinating coin discoveries. Happy collecting! Hello, and welcome back to the channel. If you're a coin enthusiast or someone who's just starting to explore the world of numismatics, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about the 1980p Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might not seem like much at first glance, but can actually be worth a significant amount of money, sometimes even reaching up to $1.3 million. Yes, you heard that right, $1.3 million. Stick around as we dive into its fascinating history, the factors that make it valuable, and why you might want to take a closer look at your collection. The history of the Washington quarter. Before we get into the specifics of the 1980p Washington quarter, let's take a step back and talk about the history of the Washington quarter in general. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932, to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, this coin features a portrait of George Washington on the obverse, with the bald eagle on the reverse. It quickly became one of the most iconic and enduring designs in American coinage. The Washington quarter has gone through several changes over the years, but its essential design has remained largely the same, with a few minor modifications. For decades, the quarter has been produced in large quantities, making it a staple of American currency. However, as with many coins, some years and mint marks stand out more than others. The 1980p quarter is one of those years, but not for the reasons you might expect. The 1980p mint mark, what does it mean? Now, let's talk about the 1980p Washington quarter specifically. The P on the coin refers to the mint mark, indicating that the coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. The P mint mark became a notable feature of many coins minted in Philadelphia after 1942. However, for most of its history, quarters have been minted in large quantities, with the focus on mass circulation. In 1980, the U.S. Mint struck a considerable number of Washington quarters at the Philadelphia Mint, and like many coins from this era, they were intended to be used in everyday transactions. However, what makes the 1980p Washington quarter stand out is its potential for rarity and value, especially when found in specific conditions. The value of the 1980p Washington quarter. So, what makes the 1980p Washington quarter worth so much money? The truth is that most 1980p quarters are worth only their face value of 25 cents, but some have qualities that make them rare and highly sought after by collectors. The key factors that can elevate the value of this coin include its condition, any potential minting errors, and its desirability among collectors. Here's where it gets interesting. The 1980p quarter is often overlooked because it doesn't have the same rarity or exceptional design changes as some other coins. However, certain 1980p quarters have been discovered in nearly flawless condition, earning them high grades. And these high-grade examples are particularly attractive to numismatists and investors. When a coin is graded at MS67 or higher A, meaning it is in mint state or almost perfect condition A, its value skyrockets. Mint errors and varieties, the key to big money. While the regular 1980p quarters aren't worth much on their own, there is a subset of these coins that have rare minting errors or unique features that make them extraordinarily valuable. For example, double die errors, where the coin is struck more than once, can cause the design to appear doubled. Coins with off-center strikes or those with significant die cracks are also highly desirable. One of the most notable features that can make a 1980p Washington quarter worth up to $1.3 million is a rare and specific minting flaw that causes the coin to have an unusual or incomplete strike. This might not be immediately obvious to the naked eye, but coin experts and graders can detect these unique features that make a coin extraordinarily rare. Coins with these kinds of mint errors are considered error coins and are among the most highly sought after by collectors. In fact, some specific 1980p Washington quarters have sold for prices well beyond their face value, with the highest recorded sale reaching an incredible $1.3 million. This is not for every 1980p coin but for those that feature errors or were produced in mint-perfect conditions. The value can be staggering. How to identify a valuable 1980p Washington quarter. If you suspect that you may have a valuable 1980p Washington quarter, it's important to understand how to identify the characteristics that can significantly increase its value. Here's a quick guide on how to determine if your 1980p quarter might be worth more than face value. 1. Check for mint errors. As I mentioned earlier, mint errors like double strikes, off-center strikes, and die cracks can make your coin much more valuable. Examine your quarter closely, especially under magnification, to look for any abnormalities in the design. 2. Examine the coin's condition. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. Coins in perfect or near-perfect condition are graded based on their appearance. If your 1980p quarter looks like it just came out of the mint, it could be worth significantly more. Coins graded MS67 or higher are especially valuable. 3. Get the coin professionally graded. If you think your 1980p quarter might be a rare one, the next step is to have it professionally graded. Professional grading services like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or a professional coin grading service, PCGS, can assess the coin's condition and determine whether it has any mint errors that would increase its value. Once graded, the coin's value can be more easily determined. 4. Research auction prices. Check recent auction results to see what similar 1980p quarters have sold for. Some auction houses specialize in rare coins, and they might have sold coins with similar characteristics to yours, giving you an idea of what your coin might fetch. The $1.3 million 1980p Washington quarter, how did it happen? Now, let's address the big question. How did a 1980p Washington quarter end up being worth $1.3 million? Well, the coin in question was a rare specimen, featuring a unique minting error that made it highly desirable to collectors. It was graded in pristine condition, and its error was significant enough to catch the attention of major investors and numismatists. When it was sold at auction, the bidding drove its price to an unbelievable $1.3 million. This is a rare exception and not typical for every 1980p quarter out there, but it highlights how valuable coins can be when they feature unique errors and are in exceptional condition. Conclusion: is your 1980p Washington quarter worth a fortune? While most 1980p Washington quarters are worth only their face value of 25 cents, there's always the possibility that you might come across one with a minting error, an unusual feature, or an exceptional condition that could make it worth a lot more. The potential for a coin to reach a value as high as $1.3 million depends on a variety of factors, including rarity, condition, and demand. If you have a 1980p Washington quarter, it's worth examining it carefully. Look for any signs of errors or unusual features. And if it looks like it could be a rare find, consider getting it professionally graded. You just might be sitting on a hidden treasure. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed learning about the 1980p Washington quarter, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating coin discoveries. And as always, happy collecting! We'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to the channel. Rarest coins today. We're diving into a topic that's bound to interest all you coin collectors and history enthusiasts, the Washington quarter dollar from 1988, specifically the 1988 mint. We'll talk about its history, value, and why some versions of this coin are worth a surprising amount of money, up to $1.2 million. So, make sure you stick around for the whole video, because you won't want to miss this. The history of the Washington quarter. Let's start with a little background on the Washington quarter itself. The Washington quarter was first minted in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It was designed by John Flanagan and features a portrait of Washington on the front, and an eagle on the reverse. This coin has been in circulation ever since, but over the years, different designs and variations have appeared. The 1988 coin, specifically, is part of the ongoing series that features George Washington's image. However, the reason we're talking about the 1988D today is that it has become a standout for collectors and investors alike. The 1988D Washington quarter dollar. In 1988, the U.S. Mint produced a significant number of Washington quarters. However, the 1988D coin, minted in Denver, has become particularly noteworthy. The D stands for the Denver Mint, which is where it was struck. The 1988D quarter is not a rare coin in terms of its production numbers. In fact, There are hundreds of millions of them in circulation. However, the key to its high value lies in a rare set of circumstances, and that's where it gets interesting. The condition. Why does the 1988 quarter matter? For most coins, their value depends on a couple of key factors: rarity, demand, and condition. While the 1988 is not considered rare in terms of mintage, it is valuable when found in mint condition, especially if it has certain unique characteristics. One major reason why this quarter is worth so much money today is because of the possibility of finding a variety of errors or minting mistakes that significantly raise its worth. For instance, some 1988 quarters were struck with misalignments or even double strikes. These types of errors can increase the value of a coin exponentially because they are considered very rare and sought after by collectors. In particular, a 1988 Washington quarter that has been perfectly preserved or has any unique errors can fetch a fortune at auction. The $1.2 million mystery. Now, let's get to the jaw-dropping part. While most 1988 quarters are worth only a few quarters or a couple of dollars in uncirculated condition, there are stories of specific 1988 quarters being worth as much as $1.2 million. This value comes from coins that are in nearly perfect condition, or those that have rare mint errors, such as double die errors or specific varieties that are sought after by collectors. In one remarkable case, a 1988 Washington quarter with an exceptional minting flaw was sold for over $1 million. This coin was in pristine condition, and the error made it extremely desirable to coin collectors. It's worth noting that these kinds of high-value coins are extremely rare, and you would need to get your hands on one of those error coins in mint state to even come close to that kind of valuation. What makes this coin so valuable? As I mentioned, it's all about rarity and condition. If you find a 1988 Washington quarter with a unique error and in mint condition, you could potentially find yourself holding a coin worth a fortune. However, that's a big if. Some of the specific errors that can increase the coin's value include double die errors. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once, causing the design to appear doubled. Off-center strikes. This happens when the coin is not aligned properly during minting, causing the design to be off-center. High-grade examples, coins that are in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded as MS67 or higher, are highly sought after. How to determine the value of your coin? If you believe you have a rare 1988 Washington quarter or any coin that might be worth a significant amount, there are a few steps you can take. Get the coin graded. The first thing you'll need to do is get the coin professionally graded by a reputable organization, like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. This will help determine its condition and authenticity. Look for minting errors. Carefully examine your coin for any potential errors. Are there signs of double striking, misalignment, or other unique features? This can greatly increase its value. Consult auction results. Check past auction results for similar coins to get an idea of what your coin might be worth. If your coin is truly unique, it might be worth consulting a coin dealer or auction house for a more specific valuation. Conclusion. Should you hold on to your 1988 Washington quarter? While most 1988 quarters are still fairly common and only worth a few dollars, there's a small chance you could own a rare, valuable coin that's worth far more. If you're a coin collector or just someone with an eye for rare finds, it's worth keeping an eye out for unusual minting errors or high-grade examples of the 1988 Washington quarter. Just remember, when it comes to coin collecting, condition is everything. If you're lucky enough to stumble upon a high-value 1988 Washington quarter with a mint error, you could be looking at a coin worth far more than face value. So, if you've got a 1988 Washington quarter sitting around, it might be time to check it out more closely, and you could be holding onto a hidden treasure. Thanks for watching today's video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you found this information useful. And, as always, happy collecting. and we'll see you next time with more exciting coin discoveries. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a coin collector or just someone who loves learning about rare and valuable coins, today's video is one you don't want to miss. We're going to talk about a coin that might not seem like much at first glance but can actually be worth a huge amount of money at the 1997p Washington quarter dollar. This particular coin, with its unique history and certain rare features, can actually be worth up to $1.1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A coin minted in 1997 could be worth a small fortune. Stick with us as we dive deep into the history of the 1997p Washington quarter, why it's worth so much, and how you might be able to find one in your collection. The history of the Washington quarter dollar. Before we dive into the specifics of the 1997p Washington quarter, let's take a quick look at the history of the Washington quarter as a whole. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It was designed by John Flanagan, and it features a profile of George Washington on the obverse, the front side, with an eagle on the reverse, the back side. This design has become one of the most iconic and long-standing coin designs in American history. Over the years, the Washington quarter has gone through a few design changes, especially with the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. However, the standard Washington quarter, featuring George Washington and the eagle, remained the most prominent design for decades. The 1997p Washington quarter was part of the regular issue circulating quarters that were minted in large quantities for everyday transactions. The 1997p mint mark, what does it mean? Now let's talk about the 1997p Washington quarter specifically. The P on this coin stands for the Philadelphia Mint, where this coin was struck. The U.S. Mint has several locations, and each mint has its own unique mint mark to indicate where the coin was made. The P mint mark has been used on coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint since 1942. So if you see a P on your quarter, it means that the coin came from this particular facility. In 1997, the Philadelphia Mint produced a large number of these quarters, and they were intended for regular circulation. But, like any coin, some years and specific versions stand out more than others, especially when there are rare minting errors or higher than usual demand from collectors. The 1997p Washington quarter has a few specific qualities that have made it stand out in the numismatic world. Why is the 1997p Washington quarter worth so much? At first glance, the 1997p Washington quarter may seem like just another regular coin, but certain factors can make it highly valuable. While most 1997p quarters are worth just 25 cents, there are some that have become incredibly valuable due to their condition and rarity. Here's why the 1997p Washington quarter can be worth a lot more. Mint errors. One of the key reasons the 1997p Washington quarter is worth a lot of money is due to certain minting errors. Mint errors are mistakes that happen during the production of coins. These errors can include things like double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other abnormalities in the design. These errors make the coin unique and highly desirable to collectors, because they are rare and often visually striking. One of the most common types of mint errors found on the 1997p Washington quarter is the double die error, where the design is struck more than once, causing a doubling effect on certain elements of the coin, like the inscriptions or the image of George Washington's profile. These coins are highly sought after and can fetch thousands of dollars or more, depending on the severity of the error and the coin's condition. 2. High-grade condition. The condition of a coin plays a huge role in determining its value. A coin that has been in pristine condition since it was minted is considered much more valuable than a coin that has been circulated heavily. If your 1997p Washington quarter looks like it was just minted, without any visible signs of wear, it could be worth significantly more than face value. Coin condition is graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better quality. Coins graded MS-67 or higher are considered to be in mint condition, and these high-grade coins can be worth a lot of money. If you come across a 1997p Washington quarter that has been kept in excellent condition, it could potentially be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. 3. Rare varieties. Aside from mint errors and high-grade condition, rare varieties also contribute to a coin's value. In some cases, certain years or mint marks have rare features that make them particularly valuable. For the 1997p Washington quarter, there are a few varieties that are more desirable than others. These can include coins with distinctive features, like certain die cracks or unique characteristics in a design. If you're lucky enough to find a 1997p quarter with one of these rare varieties, it could command a much higher price. The $1.1 million 1997p Washington quarter. How did it happen? Now, let's talk about the most jaw-dropping part of this story, the 1997p Washington quarter that sold for $1.1 million. This might sound unbelievable, but it's true. This particular coin was found with a rare and significant minting error that made it incredibly valuable. A double die error, where the design was struck twice, causing a visible doubling of the design, turned this otherwise common 1997p quarter into a prized rarity. The coin was in near-perfect condition, and when it was put up for auction, collectors from all over the world fought for the chance to own it. The bidding skyrocketed, and in the end, this single 1997p Washington quarter sold for a staggering $1.1 million. While this is a rare and extreme case, it's a perfect example of how valuable a mint error combined with perfect condition can be. If you're lucky enough to find a 1997p Washington quarter with similar characteristics, it could lead to a huge payoff. How to identify a valuable 1997p Washington quarter. So, how do you determine if your 1997p Washington quarter might be worth a fortune? Here's a quick guide to help you figure out if you've got rare coin on your hands. Examine the coin for mint errors. The first thing to check for is any minting errors. Look closely at the design, especially around the inscriptions, the date, and the image of George Washington. Double dies, off-center strikes, and other mint errors are the key to identifying a valuable coin. Sometimes these errors can be hard to spot with the naked eye, so using a magnifying glass can help you catch the details. Check the coin's condition. The condition of the coin is crucial. If your 1997p Washington quarter is in near-perfect condition with minimal wear, it could be worth much more than face value. Coins in mint condition are graded higher and often fetch much higher prices. Get the coin professionally graded. If you think your 1997p Washington quarter might have a mint error or is in exceptionally good condition, consider getting it graded by a professional grading service. Organizations like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, can assess the quality of the coin, verify any errors, and assign a grade that will help determine its market value. Research auction prices. Check out recent auction results to see what other 1997p quarters with similar mint errors or in great condition have sold for. This can give you a better idea of what to expect for your coin. Conclusion. Is your 1997p Washington quarter worth $1.1 million? While most 1997p Washington quarters are worth only face value, there's always the possibility that you might have one with a rare minting error, in perfect condition, or with other unique features that make it highly valuable. If you're lucky enough to find a 1997p Washington quarter with a double die error or in mint condition, it could potentially be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, or, in the rarest of cases, a staggering $1.1 million. So, the next time you come across a 1997p Washington quarter, make sure to take a closer look. You could be holding onto something much more valuable than you ever imagined. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1997p Washington quarter, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating coin content. We'll see you next time with more exciting discoveries. Happy collecting! Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic that could change the way you look at your coin collection. We're talking about the 1979 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that may be sitting in your pocket or a drawer right now, but could actually be worth a lot more than you think, potentially up to $1.4 million. You might be surprised at the hidden value of this seemingly ordinary coin. In this video, we'll explore the history of the 1979 Washington quarter, its value, what makes it worth so much money, and how you can determine if you have a rare and valuable one in your collection. Let's get into it. The history of the Washington quarter dollar. Before we focus specifically on the 1979 Washington quarter, let's take a step back and talk about the history of the Washington quarter itself. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the coin features a profile of George Washington on the obverse, and on the reverse, you'll see an eagle. This coin became one of the most iconic and enduring designs in American currency. The Washington quarter has seen many different versions over the years, but it remained mostly the same in its design until 1999, when the U.S. Mint introduced the state quarter program. The Washington quarter has been in continuous production since 1932, making it a staple of U.S. coinage. But in 1979, a unique set of circumstances would come into play that would make the 1979 quarter special for collectors. The 1979 mint mark. What does it mean? The D on the 1979 Washington quarter refers to the Denver Mint, which is where the coin was struck. The U.S. Mint has several facilities around the country, and each mint facility uses a different mint mark to distinguish where a coin was produced. In this case, the D indicates that the coin was minted in Denver, Colorado. During 1979, the U.S. Mint produced a large number of Washington quarters at the Denver Mint, and these quarters were intended for everyday circulation. On the surface, the 1979 Washington quarter may seem like just another regular coin, but there's more to the story that can make this coin valuable. What makes the 1979 Washington quarter valuable? Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. What makes the 1979 Washington quarter worth so much money? The truth is, most of the 1979 quarters that were produced are still in circulation today, and they hold no more value than their face value of 25 cents. However, certain 1979 quarters have become highly sought after by collectors due to their rarity, condition, and potential mint errors. For most collectors, the value of a coin largely depends on three main factors: rarity, demand, and condition. In the case of the 1979 Washington quarter, the most valuable examples are those that were struck with minting errors, or those that are in exceptional condition. The 1979 Washington quarter has a few particular characteristics that make it stand out in the coin collecting world. Some of those quarters were minted with certain flaws that can make them extremely rare and highly desirable. For example, there are instances of double dies or off-center strikes that occurred during the minting process. These errors are key to the coin's increased value. Furthermore, high-grade versions of the 1979 Washington quarter, those in mint condition or close to it, can be worth significantly more than those that show signs of wear. Mint errors and rare varieties. The key to big money. So what kind of mint errors or rare varieties are we talking about? There are several specific types of flaws that can make the 1979 Washington quarter worth a lot of money. These include: 1. Double die errors. A double die error happens when a coin is struck more than once, causing the design to appear doubled. In the case of the 1979D Washington quarter, double die errors on the obverse, where George Washington's profile is, can make the coin highly desirable. If you come across a 1979D quarter with a noticeable doubling of the design, it could be worth far more than its face value. 2. Off-center strikes. An off-center strike happens when the coin is not aligned properly during the minting process, causing the design to be struck off-center. These coins are usually quite rare, and collectors love them because they have a unique look and are visually striking. A 1979D Washington quarter with an off-center strike could fetch a much higher price than a standard coin. 3. High-grade examples. The condition of a coin is critical when it comes to determining its value. Coins that are in pristine, mint-like condition are considered more valuable than those that have been heavily circulated. If your 1979D quarter has been preserved in near-perfect condition and graded as MS67 or higher by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, it could be worth hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars. Now, let's talk about the most impressive example of a valuable 1979D Washington quarter. One specific coin, with a unique mint error, was sold at auction for an astounding $1.4 million. This particular 1979D quarter featured a double die error that made it incredibly rare, and in perfect condition. It was the ideal candidate for a record-breaking sale. This example highlights just how valuable a rare, error-ridden 1979D Washington quarter can be. How to determine the value of your 1979D Washington quarter. So how can you determine if your 1979D Washington quarter is one of those rare and valuable coins? Here's a step-by-step guide. 1. Look for mint errors. Examine the coin closely for any signs of mint errors. If you notice any doubling of the design, misaligned strikes, or off-center features, you may have a rare coin on your hands. 2. Inspect the coin's condition. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. Look for signs of wear and tear. Coins that have been circulated and show signs of significant use are worth less than coins that have been preserved in excellent condition. If your coin is still in mint state, it will be more valuable. 3. Get your coin professionally graded. If you think your 1979D quarter might be rare or in exceptional condition, consider getting it graded by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They will assess the coin's condition, authenticity, and any potential errors, providing you with an official grade that can significantly increase its market value. 4. Check auction results. Research past auction sales for 1979D quarters, especially those with similar characteristics to your coin. Seeing what similar coins have sold for can give you an idea of what your coin might be worth. Conclusion: is your 1979D Washington quarter worth $1.4 million? While most 1979D Washington quarters are worth only their face value, certain coins from this year have become highly valuable due to rare minting errors and exceptional condition. If you're lucky enough to find a 1979D Washington quarter with a unique flaw, such as a double die error or an off-center strike, or if you have one in mint state, you could have a valuable coin on your hands. In fact, it could be worth up to $1.4 million, just like the highest-priced example sold at auction. So, the next time you come across a 1979D Washington quarter, take a closer look. You never know, you might just be holding onto a hidden treasure. Thanks for watching today's video. If you found this information helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, happy collecting, and we'll see you next time with more amazing coin discoveries.